Hi, this is Chris from Canine Solutions Training Services. Watch the following clips and I'll be right back to talk about it in a second. Thanks for watching the clip. If you're active on social media at all, you're going to notice that in the past couple of weeks, the Dakota Pipeline project, or the Keystone Pipeline project specifically, has been in the news. Native Americans are trying to stop the building of the Keystone Oil Pipeline under the Missouri River because it's their watershed, their water source. In 2011, there was a pipeline that the same company put under the Yellowstone River that ruptured. It is connected to the Missouri River, and in the Yellowstone River, it ruined a lot of the water and the fishing in the area. When the oil company brings in a security force with dog handlers that I would call dog handlers only in the fact that they're holding on to the end of a leash, with dogs that were poorly trained and poorly deployed, it gets my attention. I want to take the time to show you that this was not a professional operation, and these were not professional handlers. I'm sure they were paid, and that is the only definition that would describe them as professional. Before I get into that, I'd like to really talk about when is it a good time to screw over Native Americans again. We came to this country and we said, hey, here's some smallpox blankets, go wipe out half your people, but enjoy the blankets. That was a bad idea. Then, other things like, well, you've got buffalo out there and you can sustain yourself, but we're going to kill all the buffalo and you have to go eat, crap. Then we're going to take your land. We're going to give you a treaty that says we're not going to do it, but we're going to take your land, and then we're going to put you on the crappiest places on earth, and you have to deal with it. Native Americans have been getting screwed over longer than just about anybody. I understand that sometimes you need a security force with dogs to defend something. Police dogs apprehend, so they will go out and be offensive, not defensive. This group of people, who I loosely describe as a security force, were not only coming off the property that they were supposed to defend, which is illegal, they were deploying their dogs on 4-year-old children, pregnant women, and unarmed civilians. When you turn from a security defense force into an offensive police force and you still don't know what you're doing, you need to examine how you got to this situation, and I'm going to do that for them. This all starts with greed. The gentleman who deployed the dogs didn't care if the handlers were trained, if the dogs were good. He signed a check, he took the money, and he scrounged up a bunch of people with mismatched dogs that were not trained very well, and not trained very well at all for this deployment. He did not care about putting those handlers in harm's way. He did not care about the people that may or may not have been bit. He cared about money. And then the handlers made a mistake. Why are they not asking what they're doing? Why are they just going? Who taught them the law, which means you cannot turn from a defensive security force into an offensive police force? These things were not taught to these people. They did not have the right equipment, they did not have the right training, and they did not have the right dogs. And I'm going to show you why these mistakes were made. Okay, so let's take a look at the bites themselves, the puncture wounds, the gashes, and the scarring that these professional dogs inflicted on the Native Americans. If you look at these pictures, you can see that the bites are really not that bad. Now, to a person looking at a child who's been bit in the face, yes, that is a bad thing. But these dogs, if they're professionally trained, are going to bite a lot deeper, a lot harder, and do a lot more damage. That's one of the ways I know that these dogs were poorly trained. When you look at the video, you see things like handlers standing around not knowing what to do. Handlers trying to pump up their dogs because the dogs don't understand the situation and they don't know who to bite. In fact, in some cases, you see with a couple of the Belgian Malinois that the dogs are so frustrated because they're being told what to do that they turn around and grab the leash and come back at the owner. This is all signs that this team is poorly trained, poorly deployed, and do not know what they're doing. In the dog world, just as in the human world, weakness draws aggression. And in this next clip, I want to show you where one of the handlers either deploys his dog on purpose or by error and lets go of the handle of the leash. The dog instantly goes after a horse and a Native American on a horse, and the gentleman has now made a critical tactical error. He is in enemy territory, and he has now given away his only means of defense other than his person or his fists. If you look, the gentleman in the blue shirt is on the bridge after he deploys his dog, and what he's trying to do now is fend off an attack from the Native Americans. And now he's vulnerable. If he did not deploy his dog away from him, he would be in a better situation to get back to his side of the line. The other part of that is the dog's not trained to come back to him. He's calling the dog, but the dog's not coming back to him. At one point, you can even see a Native American gentleman go to pick up the leash. If that gentleman had picked up the leash, the dog wouldn't have done anything. The dog would have said, okay, who are you? I'm trying to chase this horse, and he could have walked him off. It was a very good instinct by the Native American gentleman. And you see at the end that, briefly, that this security handler is now being swarmed by Native Americans, and he has made a very poor tactical error. And the reason he made that error is because he was never meant to be in this situation. He is not a security dog handler. He is not a police officer. He is not someone who understands where they are and what they're doing. If he was, he would have never let go of the end of that leash. Here's another clip. This dog is the one that had the human blood in its mouth. It's a German Shepherd. He's a bicolor. He is very old, relatively speaking, for a working dog. You can see he's probably about 7 to 9 years old. And the lady who's holding the dog is trying very hard to fire the dog up. The dog, again, is very confused about where it should be and what it should be doing. This isn't what it was trained for. And clearly, this is not what the woman who was handling was trained for. You can see the woman trying to get the dog fired up and push it into the crowd of people. The dog literally looks up at her as if it's supposed to be in the heel position and starts going like, what do you want me to do? The Native Americans, if they had stayed calm at that point, would never have been bitten. But they did pick up some sticks and I think a flagpole, and they did try to keep the dog away because, again, they don't know what's happening. So this woman now has this dog who, in a later clip, is completely gassed out, standing in the blazing sun. It's old, it's a little bit fat, and it wants to just get out of there. And she's not identifying that because the situation has swept her up, and she's starting to regret what she's done, but she doesn't want to leave because she wants to get paid, and she doesn't want to go forward because the dog's not working out for her.
Are you telling the dogs to bite the protesters? The dog has blood in its nose and its mouth.
If you look at this clip again, this is the clip where the lady is rushing the Native American protesters with her German Shepherd dog. The German Shepherd really doesn't know what to do, and then finally when one of the Native Americans picks up a stick, the dog kind of figures out what it's supposed to do. Then the dog gets hit, and the dog says, okay, I don't want to be here anymore, and the lady retreats with her German Shepherd and starts to soothe it because it's hurt. The dog got hurt because these people were stupid and tried to take a check for something they didn't know how to do. If you continue to watch the clip, you'll notice that, and I've highlighted it here, that a gentleman picks up a rock. One of the protesters picks up a rock, and he throws the rock at and hits one of the handlers. That is the moment when these handlers decided, okay, we've made a bad choice, we need to leave, and they mount a retreat. When the Native Americans see them retreating, they give pursuit. Again, weakness draws aggression. Weakness draws aggression is one of the first things that's taught to a security force, police department. And if you understand that these people had no idea about that basic fundamental principle, then you really see what I see, that these are not trained professional handlers and trained dogs. The minute these people started feeling the effects of the sticks and stones, they literally jumped ship, and that was enough for them. If these people were protected like a security force with padding, shields, sidearms, if they had tear gas and other people to back them up, and they understand what was going on, they would have been able to stay through the rocks and the sticks, but they weren't a security force. And this is, to me, the first thing that jumps out at me when I look at this video. Lastly, I'd like to point out that the gentleman who signed the contract to deploy this security force should be ashamed of himself. He is an idiot, because this was absolutely the wrong thing to do. I will tell you that I'm ashamed of my colleague, whoever he is. I'm ashamed of the handlers. I'm ashamed of the fact that these people represent or even remotely represent the bite work community. I hope it doesn't change your opinion of trainers who do bite work, police, law enforcement who do the right thing with bite work. On a personal note, when is it a good idea to send a dog on a 4-year-old child? When is it a good idea to send a dog on a pregnant woman or unarmed civilians? We went through this bullshit in the 60s, and I thought we learned our lesson, but I guess we didn't. I hope, sincerely hope, that you understand that this isn't how all professional trainers are, and I hope that in the future people will learn from this and understand that they shouldn't get into situations that they're ill prepared for, ill trained for, and only do it for cashing a check. Thanks for watching. I'm Chris Fraize.
We protected our water, and we did a good job at doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.